At any moment, there are hundreds of thousands of items being transported across Australia. Beyond the journey from A to B, each delivery exists within a greater chain of responsibility that even you may belong to. From the 1st of October 2018, amendments to Australia's heavy vehicle national law now means that everyone within the transport supply chain is responsible and potentially legally liable for the safety of transport operations.
I think it's really critical for businesses to understand their COR requirements, chain of responsibility. Probably for a couple of reasons. Obviously there's the safety side, so there's protection of your own people, but then there's the protection of people on the road, so there's the general public at risk. That's the one side. The second side is probably the compliance side of chain of responsibility.
What we've found is, in that space, I guess you could say, the truck driver is still believed to own that responsibility, but it's far more than that.
All organisations, regardless of industry, must take a more proactive approach to safety. Chain of responsibility has multiple aspects, of which load restraint is one of the key areas. Each person involved in the chain has an obligation to ensure they've taken all reasonably practical steps to ensure that their actions are in line with road transport laws. This is your primary duty. So, what does it mean to take reasonable steps?
It's understanding what does chain of responsibility really mean and what are my requirements? What do I actually need to do? And then how do I deal with that? So there's a tendency out there to maybe scare the market about the obligations, but what are the actual tools, what are the actual strategies we're going to implement to make sure that we're compliant?
The engineering team and the engineering expertise at Daywalk, I'd describe them as being progressive and very forward-thinking.
So we've got guys with letters behind their name, but we've also got guys that have got experience on the floor. So they've run machine shops, they've been workshop operators, so they know the kind of challenges that our customers face from a vendor level and then from a site level as well. I think a couple of things that other providers in this space miss. The first one is around the certification and the engineering rigour. So where Daywalk really provides a point of difference is we do put our models and our solutions through an external analysis or finite element analysis to really test the logistics forces and make sure that we're giving a safe outcome for use on the roads.
If you are involved in the movement of heavy components, you have to consider so much more than just structural engineering and certification. At Daywalk, our transport solutions are logistics engineered. This means we independently test the forces of emergency braking on our solutions to ensure that they will be compliant on the road.
We try to think about all the possible situations which could go wrong, all the possible situations where the job is going to be used. Doing all that calculation, we pass them through a computer simulation called FEA, or Finite Element Analysis. There we run these simulations on environmental conditions. We try to see what the wind's going to affect when it's traveling, what the load's going to affect when it's moving, when it's being handled around, forklifted or crane lifted, and we try to see how the pallet itself is going to be affected by this. All this information in mind, we try to summarize it into a simple way of a guide that the users can see. So in the end of the day, the amount of torque that a bolt needs to be tightened to that very detail is how we go for our guides.
Tough penalties are in place for individuals who do not fulfil their chain of responsibility obligations, including fines of up to $300,000 or 5 years imprisonment. Companies may also face fines of up to $3 million. Transport safety and compliance isn't something you get a second chance at. It pays to be in safe hands, with those who know how to uphold the highest standards. Get in contact with Daywalk today and discover why we're leaders in the chain of responsibility.